Close your eyes for a moment and try to remember the last time something improbable happened and touched you deeply. An unexpected encounter, a phrase in a book you opened by chance, a number that keeps repeating itself. Have you ever wondered if there is an intelligence behind these silent coincidences? Perhaps you are in a moment of life when everything feels disconnected, as if the universe had forgotten your name. But what if these small repetitions that many call chance were in fact the way the universe whispers to you? There is a language not spoken with words. It is made of signs, encounters, and symbols that cross our path when we least expect them. This language is ancient, wise, and deeply intimate. It does not shout, it suggests, and it takes an attentive heart to hear it. Today, you are invited to look at reality with new eyes, to understand that what once seemed random may be filled with purpose. We will explore synchronicity, this invisible thread that connects the inner world with the outer one, and perhaps, in the end, you will discover that nothing has ever really been by chance. Since childhood, we were taught to distrust the invisible. Everything had to have a logical, predictable, measurable cause. The outside world was presented as a blind mechanism where events simply happen, without intention, without purpose, and so we drifted away from mystery. But there are moments that defy this logic. When you meet someone who says exactly what you needed to hear, at the precise moment you were about to give up. When a detour on the road prevents something you never could have foreseen. These experiences carry a meaning that escapes traditional explanations. We call chance what we cannot control or understand. But does chance really exist? Or is it just the name we give to what we do not yet comprehend? In many moments of life, especially in pain, it feels easier to believe everything is random, rather than accept that the universe may be showing us something, even if silently. When you are tired, grieving, or lost, the idea that nothing has meaning can seem comforting. After all, if everything is random, then nothing is your responsibility. But what if it is the opposite? What if these accidents are precise mirrors of your inner energy, a reflection of your deepest vibration, asking to be heard? Perhaps the greatest myth of all is that we are separate from the whole. What we call coincidence may in fact be reality trying to guide us back to our forgotten essence. And when we begin to see the signs from this perspective, life never looks the same again. Carl Gustav Jung did not speak only as a scientist, he listened as a poet of the soul. In his deep explorations of the human psyche, he noticed something that escaped Cartesian rationality. Certain events happened with a symbolic precision that no logic could explain. He called this synchronicity. For Jung, synchronicity was a meaningful coincidence, not because there was a clear cause, but because there was meaning. Two events that come together not through time or space, but through the message they carry to the soul of the one who experiences them. A prophetic dream, a symbol that repeats, a phrase that echoes your inner silence. This perception broke the paradigm of separation between mind and matter. Jung intuited, even before quantum physics suggested it, that the outer world and the inner world were not isolated, but intertwined, that our consciousness touches, influences, and responds to the fabric of reality. When he studied the I Ching, the Book of Changes, he was fascinated by the idea of an oracle that did not operate through causality, but through synchronicity. Each answer arose not by chance, but because the question carried a specific vibration. It was as if the universe listened not to the words, but to the silent intention behind them. Jung did not seek to convince. He simply pointed toward the invisible with the serenity of someone who had already walked through chaos. His proposal was not magical, it was radically human. Perhaps life is responding to us all the time. The question is, are we ready to listen? Long before modern science, there was wisdom. Ancient peoples did not separate body and soul, heaven and earth, visible and invisible. Egyptians, Chinese, Mayans, Greeks, shamanic peoples from every continent, all shared the same silent certainty. The universe communicates through symbols. And these symbols are not read with the eyes, but with the awakened soul. These cultures developed rituals to listen to the hidden flow of reality. They used oracles not as fortune-telling, but as vibrational mirrors. The I Ching, hieroglyphs, runes, power animals, all were part of a sacred language that taught how to align with with the rhythms of the cosmos. But there came a moment when this knowledge began to be silenced. The destruction of the Library of Alexandria is more than a historical fact. It is a symbol of the attempt to erase memories that connected human beings to the divine. It was not just about burning books. It was about cutting the invisible threads that united man with universal intelligence. Over the centuries, this knowledge was labeled superstition, occultism, fantasy. Reason was placed on a throne, and the invisible was ridiculed. But the soul never forgot. In silence, it continued to seek answers in synchronicities, dreams, repetitions, and intuitions that escape logic. Perhaps you have felt this, a calling that does not come from the world but from within. A memory you never lived, yet pulses as truth. This is the spiritual memory that survived sabotage, and when you begin to honor it, the ancestral wisdom returns, not as theory, but as reconnection with what has always been yours. For a long time, science ignored what it could not measure, but some researchers dared to look beyond what instruments could capture and found evidence that reality is not limited to what the eyes can see. Among them, names like Jacobo Grinberg, Michael Talbot, and David Bohm opened portals to a broader understanding of consciousness. Grinberg, for instance, studied the interaction between mind and reality in the rituals of Mexican shamans. His findings pointed to a collective neuronal field, capable of creating connections between brains, even at a distance. It was as if thoughts could intertwine in the invisible space, resonating beyond the physical body. Michael Talbot, on the other hand, described the universe as a hologram. In a hologram, each part contains the whole. Reality, he suggested, works the same way. What happens in the microcosm of the mind influences the macrocosm of the outer world. The boundary between observer and observed dissolves. Everything is interconnected. These ideas, once seen as marginal, today find support in experiments with heart coherence, quantum physics, and spiritual neuroscience. The electromagnetic field of the heart, for example, has measurable power to influence other fields around it, including the way events unfold. Bruce Lipton, a cell biologist, showed that beliefs, not just genes, shape the functioning of our cells. The way we think, feel, and interpret the world literally alters our biology. Consciousness is not a byproduct of the brain. It is the foundation behind material reality. When you begin to understand this, synchronicity stops seeming magical and becomes a natural mechanism of a living, intelligent universe that responds deeply to your inner vibration. At first glance, emotions may seem to be just internal states, something we feel in silence and then fades away. But science shows us that every thought, every emotion generates a real, measurable field. Your body emits vibrations, your heart speaks in waves, your mind shapes frequencies, and all of this echoes in the space around you. The HeartMath Institute demonstrated that the electromagnetic field of the heart is the most powerful in the human body, capable of expanding meters beyond the skin. When you feel gratitude, for example, this field organizes itself into coherent, harmonious patterns. When there is fear, resentment, or anxiety, the field becomes chaotic, disordered. These fields do not just record your internal state, they influence the kind of reality you experience. Situations, people, opportunities, and even setbacks begin to reflect this vibrational state, as if the world were a subtle mirror of your dominant frequency. This is why certain moments feel fluid, as if everything cooperates with you, while others feel blocked, full of resistance. It is not punishment or luck. It is resonance. Your vibration connects with events that speak the same energetic language you are emitting, consciously or unconsciously. Joe Dispenza often says that you can only attract a new reality when you already feel as if it exists. This is not about pretending, but about shifting the inner state before the outer one changes. Because the universe responds to what you vibrate, not to what you merely wish with your mind. There are days when everything seems to fail. The bus that's late, the email that doesn't arrive, the meeting that gets canceled. At first glance, they're just setbacks, meaningless, directionless. But what if behind these ordinary events there was a silent order, like a river changing course to avoid invisible stones? When you begin to realize that every event carries a vibration, the world stops being random. A delay can be protection, a loss can be redirection, a silence can be a pause for listening. Nothing happens by chance when you're attuned to what your soul is radiating. Physics teaches us that subatomic particles only behave when observed. This means that the act of looking and the intention behind the gaze influences the outcome. Life works the same way. The way you relate to your feelings creates the field where events take shape. You are not being punished for your fears, nor rewarded for your good intentions. Life simply returns, with precision, the vibration you are emitting right now. The universe does not judge. It translates. It responds. It reflects. When something doesn't flow, perhaps the invitation is not to try to control the world, but to dive deeper into yourself, to understand what that experience is trying to reveal about your inner state. And in that moment, synchronicity ceases to be a sporadic phenomenon and becomes a continuous dialogue between your soul and reality. There is a type of communication that doesn't happen with words. It manifests through forms, repetitions, dreams, encounters, silences. The universe doesn't speak as we do. It sends signs, and these signs carry meanings that go beyond logic. They are coded messages, intended not for the analytical mind, but for intuitive perception. Perhaps you've seen repeating numbers, 1111, 2222, and felt they were trying to tell you something. Maybe an animal crossed your path at a moment of decision, or you dreamed of someone long forgotten, and the very next day that person reappeared. Coincidences? Not for those who listen with the heart. These symbols don't have a universal manual. What represents liberation for one person may be a warning for another. The secret lies in observing how you feel when faced with the sign. The body responds before the mind. A shiver, a tear, a sensation of presence, all of these are forms of vibrational translation. Neville Goddard used to say that imagination is the channel through which the divine converses with the human. And that is exactly what symbolic language does. It activates inner images that reconnect us with forgotten memories of the soul. Each symbol is a mirror reflecting a part of you that longs to be seen. By recognizing these signs, you are not becoming superstitious. You are becoming sensitive. You are learning to listen to the world as one listens to a melody, not to decipher, but to feel. Because deep down, what the universe truly wants to know is, do you still remember the language of your own soul? We live in an age where the flow of information never stops. Thousands of videos, songs, messages, and images flood our screens every single day. And yet, there are moments when something catches your eye with a precision that feels magical. A video appears by chance. A song plays and expresses what you didn't know you were feeling. A piece of text seems to answer exactly what you asked in silence. In the digital age, synchronicity has found new ways to manifest. Technology, as artificial as it may seem, is also woven into the great field of consciousness. When the intention is pure and the heart is sensitive, even algorithms become instruments of the invisible. Greg Braden speaks of the intelligent field, a living network that connects everything and everyone. This network is not confined to the physical plane. It also pulses within the digital sphere. What you vibrate, even without typing, echoes, and the universe responds with precision through videos, messages, content that arises as unexpected answers, yet perfectly aligned. It's not about romanticizing the internet. It's about recognizing that even in this seemingly mechanical space, the invisible can operate. When you are present, attentive, and connected to yourself, it's as if the network itself begins to feel your vibrational field. And perhaps within these digital synchronicities, there lies a profound lesson. The sacred is not only found in ancient temples or in silent practices. It can also emerge in the unexpected, even on a screen. All it takes is a clear gaze and a heart that is open. Awakening to the synchronic flow does not require effort, but listening. It is less about seeking signs and more about quieting yourself to perceive them. The universe doesn't need to shout when it finds a silent heart. That is why the first step is to slow down and begin to pay attention. Keeping a synchronicity journal is a simple yet powerful gesture. By writing down what happened, how you felt, and what meaning that sign might carry, something begins to shift within you. Reality becomes more participatory, more alive, as if it had been waiting for your attention in order to bloom. Meditation is not just a technique, it is expanded listening. When you quiet mental noise, the filters of reason relax and the invisible finds space to reveal itself. intuitions become clearer, patterns once ignored emerge, and a greater presence begins to be felt, as if the universe were closer. Observing life's rhythms, encounters, repetitions, unexpected turns, with a symbolic eye is a spiritual practice. You begin to notice that certain songs play at the exact right moments, that certain names repeat like echoes. Nothing is trivial when the heart is awake. Awakening to the synchronic flow is not about making things happen. It is about tuning into what is already happening, but on a subtle frequency. And this frequency only reveals itself when you trade hurry for presence and doubt for listening. The flow doesn't need to be created. It already exists. All it takes is remembering how to feel it. For a long time, you may have believed you were only a passenger in life's journey. That reality came from the outside, unpredictable, leaving you only to react. But synchronicity, when understood in its depth, reveals something far more intimate and revolutionary. You were never merely an observer. You have always been an active part of what is unfolding. Becoming a conscious co-creator does not mean controlling events, but attuning yourself to the wisdom that directs them. It is aligning intention and emotion in such a way that reality begins to respond with fluidity, as if whispering yes to your inner state. And often, this will require decisions that make no logical sense, yet vibrate with truth. Joe Dispenza teaches that the leap happens when you act as if you are already living the desired future, not pretending, but embodying the frequency of what you wish to manifest. This goes beyond positive thinking. It is emotional reprogramming. It is living with the body what the soul already knows to be possible. Decisions guided by synchronicity are not impulsive. They are born from an inner silence, from a certainty that cannot be explained but only felt. As you become more intimate with your vibrational field, you begin to discern more clearly what is aligned and what merely repeats old patterns. To co-create consciously is to dance with life, not to force it. It is to trust the wisdom that organizes the invisible and to respond to it with presence, sensitivity, and intention. And the more you align inwardly, the clearer the outer signs become. Reality ceases to be an enigma and becomes a loving reflection of your state of being. Synchronicity is not a sporadic miracle. It is the natural pulse of a universe in constant dialogue with your consciousness. Each sign, each repetition, each apparent detour carries a subtler intention, not to control your life, but to lead you back to the center of yourself. Perhaps for a long time you felt disconnected, without answers, as if the world were mute. But now maybe you realize that the silence of the universe was never empty. It was simply a space awaiting your listening. The signs were always there, and they still are. The difference is that now you see them with new eyes. To ignore this symbolic language is to live as an isolated fragment, at the mercy of events. But to recognize it is to open the eyes of the soul and remember that you were never alone, never abandoned. The universe has always responded to your vibration, to your intention, to your presence. Nothing is by chance, nothing is random. Everything responds, everything reflects, everything converses. And every small moment, no matter how ordinary it may seem, can hold the map to a reunion with the sacred. And what if synchronicity is not just a phenomenon? What if it is a constant invitation to remember that you and the universe have always been one single movement?